Hey guys, today I want to give you my review or sort of a personal experience with the new iPhone 10. I've had it for a few weeks, maybe a week or two now. It was released on the 3rd, and I wanted to share my experience and thoughts on the new iPhone 10 in comparison to previous generation iPhones. Now, as we know, of course, there's no home button on the new iPhone 10. Everything lies on Face ID. Face ID is the new technology that's going to probably entice you to buy this device. And there's a few things I want to talk about this technology, starting with Face ID and how it works. Now, when I first started using Face ID, I didn't know or wasn't aware that there is a distance factor. So, and I'll explain myself here in a few seconds. With Touch ID, you pick up a phone, you press your fingerprint, and you're in. Distance is not an issue. With Face ID, there is a sweet spot, 10 to 20 inches. That is the perfect sweet spot for Face ID to work properly all the time. Now, when I wake up in the mornings and I thought it was my pillow, maybe my face being covered by the pillows and things like that, I thought that was a direct issue on the iPhone 10 not being able to recognize who I was. So if I held it a good distance away, about 10 to 20 inches, it'll work fine. Now, if I get closer to the camera, it won't recognize this because I'm a little too close. But when I back up a little bit, the phone would recognize who I was, and then it will unlock the phone. So it does work very well, but you have to keep in mind that Face ID does have a learning curve. When you wake up in the mornings or something like that, if you're staring at your phone too close, you may find yourself using the passcode more often than you would have on a Touch ID device. Now, speaking of Touch ID, I think Touch ID could have been an option to be considered under the display, maybe on the side button here, or something to add as a combination to Face ID for situations like that, because as I mentioned, you're not really aware most of the time on how far you're holding your phone, and sometimes I just find myself using the passcode more than I should, especially as I mentioned in the mornings when I have my phone closer to my face. But other than that, Face ID works very, very well. And I'm sure with software and future generation of iPhones with Face ID technology, this will improve, but for now, that is a factor. There is a learning curve when it comes to that. Another thing I do want to talk about is the notch up at the top here. A lot of people have an issue with the notch. Those who don't own an iPhone 10 yet ask, does it really bother you? Does it really get in the way? And I have to say, it really doesn't matter to me. I see it as part of the status bar. There is an application that you can download in the App Store. You can go ahead and select the wallpaper that you want, and this application will change this wallpaper to make it so the notch doesn't appear up at the top as you see there. Then you can go to select the wallpaper, and if it annoys you, you can just go ahead and select the image that you just created with the application here. Zoom all the way back just like that, set for both, and boom, we're going to be in, no notch. Just if you want to do that, it is available right now, but I really do not mind the notch. It's just something I've learned to live with, and I think it's really cool. Now, when it comes to watching videos and photos and things like that, there's two options I have. I can go ahead and go into landscape mode, right? And I have my video here cropped on the sides to avoid the notch. But that defeats the purpose of having an entire edge-to-edge display. If you zoom out, you can get the entire content there. I don't really mind the notch much, but you do lose part of the content and also part of the quality of the video itself. But I do find that it gets more annoying to me to lose the quality of the video itself a little than it does just looking at the notch, because sometimes I just hold my phone like this when I'm watching videos, and I really don't mind it. It looks amazing when you're watching YouTube videos. If the qualities are there, if the high quality of the video is there, then it looks fantastic. But if it's not such good quality of video, you do lose quality. And if you zoom out, you do get these side bezels here, which kind of defeats the purpose, as I mentioned. You do lose some of the content when you zoom in just like this. You lose part of the content as you see there, but not much. So yeah, when it comes to watching videos and looking at pictures, I don't really mind it much, but just some of those points I do wanted to point out. Now, when it comes to pictures and things like that and images, I don't really mind the notch. It's just part of the device at this point. If you have a dark wallpaper, you don't really see it at all. So I don't really mind it. Watching videos filmed on the phone itself is definitely amazing, which brings me to the next topic. The camera on this phone is probably one of the most amazing features of the phone. One of the best features of the phone. It's got the optical image stabilizations, dual optical image stabilization on both lenses, and the quality is just amazing. Really good quality. And of course, the display is definitely the best display on any iPhone till date, and I've had every single iPhone. If one of the things that draws you into a smartphone is a display, then I think that's going to be a winner for you when it comes to the iPhone 10. You just really have to see one of these iPhones in person in order to see the quality and how good it looks. So display is a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. Now I also want to talk about the user experience, iOS itself. Now the great thing about iOS, anything I mention here could change in the future, and that's the great thing about software. But now there is one thing that I really wish it would change, and of course I'm pretty sure you know that's going to be the interaction with the control center, and also some of the things that you can do with the phone. So if you swipe up like this, you bring up the app switcher. In order to quit applications, tap and hold and then quit, which is inconsistent with other devices. So if I have an iPhone 7 here, as you can see, if I double click the home button here and swipe up, that's it, quit the application. Unlike the iPhone 10, you swipe up for the multitasker. If you do that, you're not quitting the app. So inconsistency between devices is something I really didn't see in the past with Apple, so it feels a little fragmented in that way. And I do understand it's a phone with no home button, but multitasking and app switching and all that should really kind of stay consistent within the devices. But as I mentioned, these things could and probably will change in the future, and having to reach all the way to the top there for the control center is just really not practical at all. Even if I'm doing it with the right hand, it's just really not practical. They can just probably add a little swipe to the bottom edge of the right of the screen here, or maybe just add a card to the app switcher itself, or anything that doesn't really have to force you to go all the way up here, because it can get really annoying. When it comes to battery performance on this iPhone, you guys, I have a video for you guys of battery test of the iPhone 10 versus the iPhone 8 Plus, and I'm not going to go ahead and spoil it for you guys. I'm going to let you watch the video, but what I do want to say is I'm extremely happy with the battery performance on the iPhone 10. Other than software issues that I'm talking about, there just really isn't anything at all on this phone that I can complain about except the camera hump. So if my iPhone is lying flat on a table, see that? It's really wobbly, and that is because the camera hump. But not often do I have my iPhone laying on a table. If I put a case on it, usually the case makes everything flush with the camera, but it is a little bit annoying. It is a little bit annoying at times, and it is there. Now when it comes to storage on the iPhone 10, 64 and 256 are the two options. 256, you have nothing to worry about, but if you're a photographer or someone who likes to film a lot on their iPhones, with the new 4K 60 frames per second, by the way, which is the option that I love to use because it's just amazing quality video, I recommend you get the 256 gigs because of course you're just going to have all that storage available, but you can always downgrade the quality of the video, maybe 4K 30 frames, to save a little storage if you have 64 gigs. But 256 gigs is probably a must on the iPhone 10 with the great quality of the images and the video. And of course we can't forget the ability to shoot portrait mode with the rear and front-facing camera as well on the new iPhone. Now, and emojis, that's one thing that I'm sure a lot of people are going to be getting the new iPhone 10 just because of the new emojis. As you can see, they're very fun to use. It is a little funny, and it may not be a selling point for a lot of people, but it is a lot of fun to use. So there you guys have it, just my thoughts on the first couple of weeks using the iPhone 10. Battery is amazing, camera is amazing, hardware build is amazing, screen is 10 out of 10, and just minor software experiences that are hindering the device from being a 10 out of 10. As I mentioned, software like things like this, things like the app switcher, and the Face ID having to get used to the distance. But other than that, I think I'm going to continue using the iPhone 10 as my daily phone, other than the iPhone 8, which was my previous phone that I was using. But of course, stay tuned here to the channel. If anything changes software-wise and improves the user experience, I'll be sure to bring that to you guys. This was sort of my first impressions, as I mentioned, or my user experience review for this iPhone. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.